Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. We're finally doing the 5-speed manual swap DIY. I know a lot of people have been requesting this video. This is the first video of a few of the videos that we're going to upload for the whole swap. It'll cover all the basics from this video, which is just the parts that you're going to need, to the wiring, to the actual mechanical stuff that you're going to be changing, and the whole process. I'm going to cover it all. That way everybody has a good reference to go to. No matter what part you're stuck at, you can go ahead and just quickly flip through and go ahead and figure it out. So let's go ahead and get started. What we have here are all the parts that my customer bought and some of the parts that I have that we're going to be using. My customer's car is a 2003 325 Ci. It has the automatic transmission currently, and we're going to be converting to this 5-speed manual. There's nothing wrong with the transmission. He just wants to have the stick. So we're going to go ahead and do it. So with the transmission that he bought, I believe this is out of a 330. It's a ZF 5-speed. They also included the transmission mount right here. They also included the drive shaft, although it's missing all of the ball bearings in the back, but they still included the drive shaft as well as a pedal assembly. So those are the main components that you are going to need. The drive shaft is different on the manuals as opposed to the automatic. The manual drive shafts are a little bit longer. So what you could do is you could use the rear section of your automatic drive shaft. That way you don't have to change any of the input shafts or anything on the differential. So use the rear section of your automatic drive shaft, and then use the front section of the manual. The front section is where all the difference is. The front section on the manual is a little bit longer. And that's pretty much because the manual transmission is shorter than the automatic. And then the pedal assembly, with the pedal assembly you will need the brake pedal as well as the clutch pedal. You want the brake switch, you can reuse your automatic brake switch. You also want the clutch switch. The one that's on here right now is a 3-pin clutch switch. That requires 2 different modules. So the switch right there and then another one that's 4-pin. If you just get the one that only has 4 pins, it's going to be a black switch. It goes in the same section and it only has 4 wires. It cuts down on a lot of the wiring. You just have to run a few wires to the DME and you're good to go. He also ended up buying this short shift kit, which is a good thing to do while the transmission's already out. It makes it a lot easier to do it. This will pretty much take care of all the slop that's in the shifter, and it will reduce the throw in the shift, which makes it feel a lot better. He also bought a ZHP shift knob with the sticker for the 5-speed instead of 6-speed. You're going to need this foam to take place of the shifter assembly that's in there currently. You're also going to need a different shift boot to cover the whole gap. This is a lot different than just using the automatic shifter assembly. You're also going to need the clutch lines for fluid. This one right here, it goes underneath the car. It attaches to this one, which comes from the pedal assembly itself, the clutch master cylinder and all of that. And you're also going to need the line that goes from the brake reservoir to the actual pedal itself. Some maintenance that you would want to do while the transmission is out is the rear main seal. Make sure you don't forget the metal gasket for it as well. You want to go ahead and replace the transmission fluid. I usually recommend using the Pentosan MTF2, but I believe that's been discontinued and they have a DCT fluid that they're selling now. I didn't have access to that, so I just got the Febi, which is recommended for this transmission as well. You are going to have to change your exhaust gaskets when you drop the exhaust. These are just the flange gaskets. You only need 2 of them. When we're doing the transmission swap, we're going to be tilting the engine back. That way we have better access to all of the bolts for the transmission. So once we put everything back in, there's going to be a lot of stress that was put on the engine mounts that are there currently. And if your engine mounts have over 100K, I highly recommend changing them anyways. It will make the car feel a lot newer and more refined because you won't have as many of the vibrations coming through to the cabin while you're sitting at a traffic light. So new engine mounts, new transmission mounts, and then you also need this clutch line as well. So with the manual swap, you are going to need a different flywheel. The manuals have, if you're getting an OEM one, it comes with a dual mass flywheel. A lot of people convert it to a single mass flywheel. That just helps with the shifter feel, how it engages and everything. It just feels a lot better in terms of most reviews that people give me. But the thing with the single mass flywheel, you will hear a little bit chatter. It might make a little bit more noise than the dual mass flywheel. The clutch might not last as long as it does with the dual mass. So my customer, he bought this whole Vallejo kit. They make a whole conversion kit that includes the flex disc. It includes a flex plate the clutch, and all the hardware needed as well. So here's the pilot bearing. You are going to need that as well. And you're also going to need the throwout bearing. Here's all of the bolts. You want new flywheel bolts as well as new clutch bolts. And the clutch alignment tool for whichever clutch you're using. You also want grease for the spleens and all the other greases and fluids. Just take a look at what all you have and what you need to buy and just go ahead and get all that. Now you also want to go ahead and replace the guibo, which sits at the back of the transmission, and this is just to get rid of any of the drivetrain wobble. This helps prevent any vibrations and stuff coming in once you're driving, once the whole drive shaft is spinning. Like I was saying earlier with this drive shaft, since we are going to be separating it to use the back section from the automatic and the front section from this manual one, it will be a good time to replace the center support bearing as well. In terms of price, you're probably looking at around, I would say $800 to $900 for the transmission, pedal box, drive shaft, the mount, and possibly they should be able to throw in the dual mass flywheel and clutch that was on the car that it came off of as well. So you're looking at about $800 to $900 for that for the whole swap for the most part. Then all the added parts, it all depends on what all you want to do. In terms of like required maintenance, so like the fluids, the rear main seal, the guibo, the center support bearing, and all of that, you're probably looking at another $250 to $300. Clutch lines and stuff, that's probably another $100. So in general, I would say have at least $1,600 to $1,700 budgeted out just in parts alone. And then labor-wise, it all depends on where you go. Usually you're going to look at around $1,500 or so in labor. That should include the coating as well. And that's pretty much it for all the parts you will need. Other maintenance related stuff that you might want to do on the transmission. The transmissions usually have a problem with the gate for fifth gear. So how this works is when you have the car in neutral, the shifter's supposed to be dead center. And then in order to go into fifth gear, you have to shift it and it has to go past the gate. So the gate will let it release and then go into fifth. It's the same thing for reverse. There's a gate that prevents you from going into reverse by accident. So once you go all the way to the left, you'll feel that gate and then you keep pushing and then it goes into reverse. A common issue on all these manual transmissions is the fifth gear gate. It tends to start getting sloppy, and that's mainly because of the retent spring. So this is a good time to replace that spring. You cannot replace the spring when the transmission's in the car. So if you're gonna do it, make sure you do it now while the transmission is out. Other things that you would wanna go ahead and check are like any of the other bearings on the shifter fork and stuff like that. Just check all this stuff and just go from there. Another good idea is to go ahead and replace the slave cylinder depending on how many miles the transmission that you had on it. This one's good, but if this you can do afterwards as well, you'll just have to rebleed the system. You are also going to need brake fluid because you are going to have to rebleed your whole clutch system, and you might want to go ahead and rebleed the brakes as well. Just get all that old fluid out and just put new fluid in. And that'll probably be another $30 for the fluid. And if you get the pressure bleeder, I think they're like $50 or $60. Pressure bleeder I recommend is Schwaben. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I have a video on my channel regarding that, so just go check that out. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. I know I haven't been responding to comments that much lately. Been getting a lot of comments, have a lot of work at the shop, and just trying to keep up with the business, and I'm still doing school as well. So that's just, it's really hard for me to keep up with everything. A good sure way for me to respond is message me on Instagram, and I do appreciate all the feedback. Just if you have any questions, make sure that's the only time you're contacting me on Instagram. Because if I get so many messages on Instagram and I sit down and I respond to all of them all at once. But thanks for the support. Stay tuned for a lot more crazy videos on this 5-speed swap, as well as the LS swap that we're doing on my girlfriend's channel, BMW Selena. And we're also doing a Mustang swap on this channel right here. It's a 5.0 Coyote Mustang into a 66 Mustang. We're swapping that in, the whole drivetrain and all the electronics and everything. So there's a lot of crazy content coming up. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching.